Well, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, or wherever you are. Welcome back to the Shed of Dread. Welcome to Why We Love Doctor Who. Here we go. It's part 20.2, and I'm joined by, as always, by John the White, Golden Age Geek, and Burrenjaw. Good afternoon, gentlemen, and how are we today?
Good afternoon, everyone. Oh, pretty good, pretty good. How are you doing, Gobby?
Oh, you know, I'm alive, I'm breathing, and
You see, these are all strong plus points.
There are. I woke up this morning, so there's a good start.
Oh, brilliant! The day just got off to a cracking beginning.
Cracking start. I opened my eyes and I'm still breathing. Yes, get in.
Now, talking about good weeks, we are not going to ignore our friend Tardy Spider, who is in the chat right now. And so wonderful to see you made it. You made it at the start time this week. I know it's not always easy for you, but this week, Tardy Spider rang the cancer bell.
Yes,
which means they are officially in remission. So, woohoo! Congratulations!
Excellent, mate. Excellent.
We are all absolutely made up and delighted for you, Tardy Spider.
Yeah,
we absolutely are. So, it's just so good to get good news like that. And, each day we keep going one step at a time. And you've got there, and I've just absolutely made up. It's brilliant news, the best.
And everybody's saying it in the chat as well. Congratulations, great news. Everybody's happy. Yes, good news, fantastic. So happy for him. So happy.
And as to the rest of you, if you've got anything you're worried about, don't ignore the doctor. And if the doctor fobs you off, you go to A&E.
You just keep going until you get what you deserve.
Because we don't want anybody else in the same position. Not if we can help it.
And Tardy Spider says, "Thank you for your support. It's been fantastic." Well, it's
so welcome, mate. You're so welcome. Thank you for your support. It's been fantastic.
Exactly. Yes,
my father went through something similar to what you guys were describing with the doctor. This was way back in 2018. He had blood pressure of over 200, and he went to the GP, gave him pills, but then he was having to do. This gave him pills, and then when he was having to do an eye test, his blood pressure had shot up to 200. I'm not making that up. That how he didn't have a stroke, I don't know. But as soon as they saw that, they got him to they got I think that was at Specsavers. They then sent for an ambulance who were able to treat it, and they discovered he had bladder cancer at the same time as he had that, so he was treated for both. And he was fine, but the guy in the ambulance even said to him, "How are you alive?" And he was thinking, "That's not a good sign, is it? When a doctor asks you, how are you alive? That's probably the worst."
Oh, no, it's a great sign. It means you're a medical miracle. Yeah, look at that, eh?
It does show you though how. You can't always trust. I'm not saying never trust them, but you can't always trust your GP.
Look, they say about the power of positive thinking: never underestimate. I think, therefore I am.
I do. Yeah.
So, it can do a lot. If the mind can make you ill, it can make you well.
You certainly can.
So we keep ourselves open to these possibilities. Looks like your dad's one of the examples.
Yeah, absolutely.
Blood pressure 200. I've never heard of somebody alive with blood pressure 200.
I'm surprised.
I don't know how. How is he? It's how is he alive? Dude, I think my dad. I think he must be I don't know, what is it? They say is it pickled in arsenic or something? Because he's also been electrocuted 3 times.
That's probably why he's all right with his blood pressure.
He accidentally set himself on fire once with his lighter fluid, and it was all over his chest. And what was the other one that happened?
Jesus.
Yeah, that's what I mean. He's been through every injury imaginable, but he's somehow still alive. It's what the fuck?
That's got to be sheer determination. Bless him.
He's not. He's just. I don't know. I don't know what it is. It's just
amazing.
It's like Homer Simpson,
I'm struggling to get my brain together with the idea of some poor bugger setting their own chest on fire with lighter fluid. I could just, oh dear.
Oh.
I'm just trying to get my head together. What we're here to do, we're going to do some Doctor Who, aren't we?
Let's do some.
Yes, we are approaching the end of the Capaldi era in the second half of Series 10. And,
Yes.
guys, this really is the last stretch now.
Yes, it is indeed.
But if you're expecting us to get to the end tonight, oh no, it's going to be tuned in next week.
It will have to be.
We are. It may be a little short of another episode tonight because we are only going to do to the end of Eaters of Light because we want to give the finish of Peter's era all the attention it deserves and all the commentary we have to offer on it. So this week we've decided we'll do a little bit of a shorter one just to make sure we can give this whole run of episodes the finale that it really deserves. And of course, starting the week after, we'll be doing some specials.
Yes,
right.
we will.
But where are we? Oh, we've been through the extremis of the false reality and the mock alien invasion and the not actually Bill and not actually Nardole and not actually the Doctor getting involved in this plot by these monks to take over the Earth. And at the end of that episode, the simulated Doctor manages to exceed programming and send a message to the real Doctor, but something's gone wrong or something's about to happen.
Yes.
And that something about to happen manifests in the shape of a pyramid at the end of the world.
Oh no.
So back on Earth, and obviously, as far as Bill is concerned, last week didn't happen anyway. The Doctor's got some idea, but the Doctor's just minding his own business, as you do, when he gets a phone call from the Secretary General of the United Nations. Because right at the strategic border where the Russian, Chinese, and US armies meet,
right?
Which, thinking about it, is probably some little sort of bit around South Korea, isn't it? I mean, what else could that actually be?
Yeah.
Although it kind of gives a Middle Eastern vibe in the actual story. Does it say where it's pyramid lands?
No,
Isn't it some artificial country no one's ever heard of, like Turkmenistan or something?
So, yeah, it always ends in
it's a non-country, isn't it?
It's gotta be.
Yeah, so a mysterious border in the centre of Asia. Kind of. And there's this pyramid, and everyone's going, "Oh, what's this about then?" So the United Nations activates its reserve clauses and all of that, and the Doctor is put in charge, basically. And he goes and has a peek at this pyramid. And, pretty soon you can spot some monks hanging around and stuff. And the Doctor's wondering what is going on here, because there's some kind of plot. And, of course, not to forget, the Doctor is blind and hiding it using his sonic glasses.
Yes.
Elsewhere, in a biochemical lab, a cascade of misfortunes. But, from people breaking their glasses to people being blind drunk, is going to lead to the creation of an absolutely deadly bacteria that will exterminate all life it comes into contact with. And the monks have picked this moment as a nexus point in time and space where there is going to be such a threat to the world, but they reckon they can incite a human to freely offer them control. What do they call it? They want submission, a surrender, but it has to be a completely genuine. You can't do it. You can't surrender and ask for their help to save the world because you want something out of it for yourself. You have to genuinely want to surrender your destiny to the monks. So, over the course of the episode, the Doctor can see that the monks are pulling a fast one.
Yeah.
And by working out which laboratories the monks were surveilling, the Doctor discovers which laboratory this dreadful accident is going to happen in. And so he interjects himself directly in order to stop it. And you know what? The plan works. The Doctor stops it. But it's just one small problem. The Doctor's got to make his way out of a room. And to do so, he has to open a combination lock. But being blind, he can't see the letters printed on the wheels of the combination lock. And his sonic glasses are just giving him a whole load of blank. So the Doctor is going to die.
Yes.
And with this realization, Bill, against the Doctor's explicit orders, makes the surrender to the monk, and all of reality changes.
Wow.
So, gentlemen, was this episode any good?
Well, this is a good question, isn't it? I think we'll start this one with Golden Age Geek. What's your impressions of the pyramid at the end of the world?
Well, as I said in the last stream, the first part, Extremis, is probably easily my favourite, and I think this one is a little step down, just because the thing I liked so much about the first part was the mystery, not really knowing about these people, but now, of course, we do know a bit about them. But the setting as well, I think it's a little bit bland. It feels like until the latter half of the episode, not really much is happening, and I think I liked the side plot of the Doctor being blind.
Yeah.
I think that maybe could have been played a bit more, because if you think about it, last episode, as we've said, didn't really happen. It wasn't the version of our characters that we know. So I think it would have been better to see that play out a little bit more. But I don't really, hate the idea of these villains manipulating the situation in order to gain power. Of course, that could be a metaphor for many things in the real world.
Yes.
But of course, there always are going to be those villains who don't attack head on themselves, but they will manipulate a situation and take advantage of that. And it's very good how they have the villains, because it's not a simple "we're going to defeat you physically." We've got a separate problem. The villains are always going to be watching, so you can't really defeat the villains as easily as, let's say another villain like the Dalek, because they are taking advantage of everything that you're going through. So I like that, style of villainy. It's, something you don't really see that much. But yeah, again, I don't dislike this episode. I think it just was a little bit of a step down. And I think it's just the whole thing about the simulation in part one. I thought that did work very well. I would have liked to have seen the characters actually move around a bit more. Some bits did feel a little bit convenient with the lab thing and how that all, went to hell. But overall, I think it's pretty great.
Yeah, excellent. How about you, Bonjour?
Oh, well, just briefly.
Yes, carry on, John.
Can we just pop in and answer a question from Sadako here? Because he says, I'm dying to know about these specials.
Ah, right, all the way up there we go. This one.
Yeah, and I wouldn't want to make out that I'd be over mysterious about it, or make out they're going to be grander than they're going to be. So basically, the whole theme is why we love Doctor Who. So we'll be extending that to why we love the Daleks.
Yes.
Why we love the Cybermen.
Yep.
Why we love the Time Lords and the Master. Why we love being Doctor Who fans.
Yep.
Maybe something about top 10 villains we love that should have had a second go, something like that. So we've got a few ideas along those lines, and we just keep doing them as long as they're fun, basically. But the whole idea is for us to express what we love about these things.
Yes.
And when we do a special on why we love the Daleks, we could talk about them in a much more complete way than talking through a particular story in a season passing through. We can give them a bit more detail, maybe get under the dome a bit as to what makes Daleks tick and why they work. So that's what we're going to be doing. just so you know, there's no huge mystery. But yes, I can confirm Why We Love the Daleks will be the first special.
Yes, it shall be interesting.
So you can get all your Dalek love thoughts all together ready.
Yes, indeed. Awesome.
No, it was back to wasn't it Virgil was about to tell us what he thought
was.
of Pyramid of the World.
It was.
Well, yeah, I'm just going to say I agree with a lot of what Golden Age Geek said. I don't really have much strong feeling about this story one way or the other. Sorry, is there static?
It's okay.
No, you're fine.
Yeah,
carry on. We hear you clear.
Okay, so
yeah,
no, it's good.
There is some static, John. It might be your mic again, mate.
Is it? Let me give it a wiggle.
Give it a wiggle. Give it a wiggle. There
Tell
you go.
me if that's better.
That's it.
Better?
Gone.
Yeah,
we're all good.
Yeah.
Static gone. Carry on.
Okay, well, I gotta say, I don't really have much strong opinions about this episode one way or the other. I think the monks are a fairly cool idea, although again, they're kind of a bit more of a supernatural Buffy Charmed type idea, the way they need your consent and then all of reality changes to suit their needs, and that's basically magic. Like what I just don't see how aliens could develop something that relied on consent. It's not really, I don't think, explained that well. And again, this is kind of a common problem with New Who, because it drew from like Buffy and Angel and Xena, all of which, when it came back, the most popular things. You could argue fantasy replaced sci-fi. It was a lot of the time written as more of a fantasy show with just a few sci-fi trappings. I think this is one of the real big examples of it. But apart from that, overall, yeah, I didn't mind this episode at all. I mean, Unit with their usual useless selves, you know. I mean, and also, I was one thing I was a bit annoyed about was that they didn't carry on the Zygon problem, because I would have thought it might have been quite cool to have seen the Zygons actually try and help save the Earth since they're now living here.
Remember the plot from last season? No.
Oh yeah. Well, I mean, I would have loved
I know
to
you're
see
right.
Bonnie.
That'd be really nice. A Zygon underground resisting the monks. That could have been quite cool.
Well, yeah, or even just to have had Bonnie to acknowledge it, like have Ingrid Oliver back. I know that's a bit obvious for me, but still have her back as Bonnie, and like, you know, maybe have Bonnie now be a bit regretful and wanting to make up for it. That could have been quite interesting.
That would mean bringing Jenna Coleman back.
No, it wouldn't. She took Osgood's face. That's remember at the end.
She did.
Yes.
So that's, I mean, you wouldn't have even had to have done that. You could have just, you know, had Ingrid Oliver back, who's always willing to come back. But yeah, and so to me, it feels a bit of wasted potential. But overall, a decent enough story. I mean, I don't get why everyone hates the Monk 3-parter. Personally, I think it's okay.
It's okay. Yeah.
Well, for my part, I took this whole surrender thing, being that the monks need one human with their brain in the perfect brainwave, which they then use to project this signal that creates reality for everybody else.
Yeah.
Because it's the signal being fed through Bill's mind. She's the link between humanity and the monks.
Yeah.
And that's why when we get to the next part in the resolution, that's the link that has to be broken to send the monks away. But I think in this part, it's deliberately not fully explained, because it's going to be explained more next part as to exactly how that works. So, but I agree, it's a stretch of a sci-fi concept. But at the same time, the idea that a particular energy, a particular frequency of energy could make humans suggestible, I don't find that too much of a stretch. It's the reordering of time and space bit, isn't it?
I will say, sorry, just one last thing actually about.
We wouldn't say the Time Lords couldn't do it. So we wouldn't say the Time Lords were magic either. We would accept that the Time Lords had their advanced science. So I think it's just one of those advanced science looks like magic things, which I agree is, you know, it is a fuzzy area, but I don't think it's insurmountable.
It is, but sorry, one thing I was going to say, I actually don't mind fantasy elements being in Doctor Who. Like, see, for instance, Sylvester McCoy era. Again, this is something that isn't really commented on, surprisingly, but every single story of that era from Silver Nemesis on features a supernatural creature, whether it's a witch or a vampire or a demon or something like that. And that's one of my favourite periods. But I think if you're going to bring the supernatural into Doctor Who, you have to leave it open-ended. And it has to more be a kind of mystery that not even the Doctor knows what this is. Whereas I feel in New Who, like in stories like this, they weren't really even trying to make it like that. They weren't trying to make it a fantasy element. It was more just that the sci-fi part of it was perhaps a bit lazy, and they felt it was easier to have it work like magic.
Think it's much more, yeah. It was like the sci-fi was never rigorous.
Yeah, definitely.
I mean, not that Doctor Who has ever been a particularly hard sci-fi show, but there have been times when the show's made much more effort to appear close to the scientifically credible.
Yeah, I mean, there's like tropes at least. I mean, the things that are definitely fit in more with sci-fi. And I'm sorry, to the monks for me fit more with fantasy. And as I said, that could have been fine if they were made out to be this big mysterious race that not even the Doctor, like the Doctor was thinking, you know, what are these? Are they actually demons? But again, they were treated as just being fairly run-of-the-mill aliens that like Missy had fought before. So to me, I don't know, it just didn't really feel like it was as much of a sci-fi thing as it could have been. But I mean, to us, this is a minor quibble. I'm just like looking for things really to quibble about. Overall, I did like.
I mean, one of the things I liked about the story was the military mind.
Yeah.
You know, and the different militaries trying to work out how they could turn this situation to their advantage, and also, and then realizing, you know, trying to do a brave thing by making this surrender on behalf of the monks, you know, and then realizing, you know, that because it wasn't a genuine surrender, that they, you know, basically killed themselves. And the way the Chinese guy dies, I think, was particularly you know, yeah. So I mean, that was all really good fun. And then the lab and the cock up in the lab and all of that sort of stuff. I liked that too. Worth mentioning, this episode, of course, features a disabled actor.
Yes.
Yes.
Now, off the top of my head, I can't remember. I have to go and try and look up her name because I haven't thought to.
She was good.
The thing I liked about that was the only signalling about it was that the week it went out, the Radio Times put a little feature in about disabled visibility.
Yeah.
It wasn't banged in our face for months beforehand, but this particular actor was going to appear in Doctor Who and how fantastic it was because she was disabled and how fantastic it was for the disabled. So going into the airing of this show, I didn't know anything about this. I didn't know that there was going to be a disabled actor in the episode. And you know what? I didn't even give a shit. I didn't notice. It meant nothing. Why should I in any way have a barrier to the story because one person's small?
Yeah.
That's how it should be.
That's exactly
how it should be.
Yeah.
And also like the way that character was written. I mean, there are a number of ways of doing this, right? If you say, okay, I want to write a story about somebody who is disabled, or perhaps it's somebody who is trans, or somebody who is lesbian, like Bill, you know, when you do it well, those things about them are integral to the story.
Yeah.
When you do it as tokenism, those things are just tokens that don't have any impact in the story. But another way of doing it is just to let them be.
Yeah.
Just have these characters, but unless there's some reason for the story to put focus on that aspect of them, just let the audience discover it for themselves. They can make their own conclusions about having a character with dwarfism on the screen. They can approach it in their own way. As far as this was actually done, there's no sign that this character was written as disabled, apart from the one plot point that relies on them forgetting their glasses.
Yes.
So the disability that matters is eyesight, not height.
Yeah. Exactly.
So I think this was just an opportunity, or this was a character that could have been cast as disabled, so it was cast as disabled.
Yeah.
Rather than the part that was written to be a disabled part. But regardless, I think it all worked perfectly fine on the screen. And were very effective scenes with Peter Capaldi actually in the lab, and that whole part of it, the whole situation cascading out of control because of Cockup's part of it, I thought was very human, and of course somewhat prescient for events in Wuhan.
Oh God, I never even thought of that.
Oh yeah, it's very. I mean, I think it was.
It's like that television show.
Yeah,
I'm not saying this was predictive programming in it, by the way, before anyone puts that Alex Jones hat on. No more than the Silurians in 1970 must have been preparing us for the coronavirus pandemic 50 years later. Oh, it's a conspiracy. Sometimes
but the one that really is. Have you guys seen Survivors? You probably have the Terry Nation show that's about a virus from China that wipes out the world.
Yes, I've seen both the original and the remake of Survivors.
The original is great.
Yeah, but no, a virus story is a good one. Always a good one.
I prefer the original the 1980s Day of the Triffids.
Oh, that's a brilliant one. That is. The remake.
I think the BBC 80s series of the Triffids beats both Survivors hands down.
Yeah, I agree.
John Wyndham was a hell of a writer.
Yeah, that does help, doesn't it?
He was an expert at apocalypses. Every single one of his stories was about some form of
apocalypse. Yeah, it was something going on with it. Yeah, well, if you're good at something, stick to it.
I rather like the Kraken Wakes. Because after the shocking rise of global sea levels, the Malvern Hills becomes a governmental centre of the British Isles. I lived in Malvern, so go on sea levels.
Can't beat the mill.
Yeah. Back to this episode.
Yeah,
I think we've done a pretty good summation of it as it is. Don't feel there's anything special to add at this point.
Not really.
Let's do some scores. I do want to say I think this episode works absolutely fine. I've got no issue with it. I think the weakest part is the last part. I actually think the first and second did a fine job. I mean, it's that classic what to do with a three-part, as we've spoken about it before. Classic Who always dealt with a six-part story, or a three-part story, as a two-parter and a four-parter, or a four-parter and a two-parter. And Extremis is the one-parter, Extremis is the self-contained story. This is the start of a double story that feeds off the self-contained story. So I think Moffat was trying to do this well in terms of, going for a longer form story this season. And let's do some scores for this part. I'm going to go B+.
And I'll go just for a nice steady B. It was a bit of a letdown. I agree with Golden Age Gateway. It felt like a step down from the last one, but it was still okay. And you can see a lot of it setting up things for later on, but it was okay. So I'll give it a.
Does anyone remember what we gave Extremis at the end of last week? I was
Christ,
so
I can't remember.
I can't remember.
A lot's happened in a week.
It must have been a B-ish, something like that.
Yeah,
it doesn't feel any worse than Extremis, and it doesn't feel especially better.
No. So, how about you, Golden Age Geek?
Well, it's going to sound like I hate this episode with my ranking, but I genuinely don't. I'd comparing it to every other episode and how I've ranked them, because I have a massive tier list where I've ranked them by their respective ranks so that I remember all this. I've given it a C. I don't hate it, but I think for me that's what it deserves.
Sounds like that's a score for being a functional episode.
Yeah, functional.
Yeah,
Functional. Yeah. How about you, Burrinjo?
I'm going to give it an A. That might be a bit generous, but considering there's so few Peter Capaldi episodes that rate highly for me, then why not? Since there's not really anything wrong with it. It might not be the most sensational episode, but I'll give it either an A or a B plus. Just because, as I said, to bump up Capaldi's average a bit higher.
Well, there you go.
Well, why not call it a B plus, and it would be an A if they could have wingled Ingrid Oliver into it.
Yeah, definitely. Then again, Declan Heaven wasn't improved by her appearance, but if they got Ingrid Oliver, I would have made it an A. Got Ingrid Oliver, Freema Ijam, and Famke Jensen, and actually, I need to stop before I go through them all.
Well, I mean, when you're reviewing this stuff, it's not always easy to, especially with a story this long, to sort of get a full picture of what it's about. Sometimes you've got to struggle to find the lie of the land.
Oh, God, I can see that one. Excellent.
I get taken in by every one of them. Yeah, he's right about that, and then oh no, he's just setting up his joke.
Yeah. Excellent.
The monks now rule planet Earth. Not only do they rule it today, they ruled it yesterday, and they ruled it tomorrow. They always will, and they always have, because this is what's true now. This is the world after the surrender.
Yes.
And it's not an easy one, and Bill's having a bit of trouble surviving in it, to be honest. It's a bit miserable. She's doing her best, and she's just trying to keep her head down and try to keep a grip of what's real, because nobody else remembers it now.
It's all gone.
But she's surviving in Monk World, and it's all red uniforms, stormtrooper, secret policey types, wingling out these unbelievers who have some reason don't believe in the monks. And while she's trying to duck and dive her way through a fascist dystopia, Nardle turns up. Hello, Bill. I've been looking for you. Now I found you. Let's go find the doctor. Oh, all right.
Yeah.
So Bill goes off with Nardle, and they go they find a way onto a boat, which is where the doctor is supposed to be. And Bill reckons that if she could free him, and maybe they can still do something to turn this all around.
Yeah.
But when Bill gets there, after working her way through the ship and getting to the doctor, she is horrified to find that the doctor has turned on humanity and is working for the monks.
Oh,
And she can't take this. She can't accept it. So she turns around and she shoots him straight through the heart.
As you do.
And the doctor regenerates. Only he didn't and she didn't, and it was all a trick.
Aha.
Because only by the doctor finding out what Bill would do if she believed he was working for the monks could he trust that Bill wasn't secretly under the influence of the monks herself.
It's a bit of a painful way to find out. Very painful way to find out.
I did not like this regeneration fake out at all. And we'll talk about that in a bit. But, okay, so let's all work together then and deal with this. And the doctor goes back to the university where he speaks with Missy.
Yes.
Because he doesn't know about the monks that much himself, but maybe Missy does. And it turns out, she knows all about them.
Of course.
This whole thing is not that difference to the Sycorax and their blood magic.
Yeah.
All you have to do is you kill the focus and it all falls apart and there you are, they're screwed. So shoot Bill, they are. What, you want me to complicate it for you, Doctor? Oh, bugger. I don't really like that solution, said the Doctor.
Not really.
It's a little bit drastic.
Yes.
So instead, He's determined to find another better way. He won't accept that. He cannot accept that he has to kill Bill as the only way to unmess this mess. So him and Bill break into the monks' control pyramid in London. And the Doctor is trying to disrupt the signal from the monks to destroy the false reality, and so humanity wakes up and throws off the monks' control. But he can't do it. They just the technology is too strong. He can't do it. He can't push back against the monks' minds enough.
No, too strong.
But somebody can. Because somebody has something extraordinary but no other human has. Because somebody's life has been touched by the Doctor.
Mm.
And in the course of that life, whereas when we met her in the pilot, Bill didn't know who her mum was.
That's true.
Because the Doctor has been secretly going around making a Bill's mum's scrapbook for her.
Mm-hmm.
She has these images of her mother, which are pure and true and real, and that the monks cannot touch. So when Bill attempts to break the link by putting her hands on the head of the monk who is keeping the construct in place, the images of her mother, the purity of that sacrifice, that love, that humanity, it blows the monks' mind control away. The minds of humanity are liberated, and in a hurry, the monks flee the planet fast. The end.
Did
Oh, back in the vault, Missy says she feels sorry about all those people she killed.
Yeah.
Come, gentlemen.
I will go for Burrinjaw this time.
Oh dear. Well,
I knew you were going to say that.
Yeah, I don't think this one's quite as bad as people make it out. I mean, I just want to state heads up. I agree. The resolution is lame. It's another power of love. You know, I can practically hear that Frankie Goes to Hollywood song whenever I watch it. You know, that's how lame it is. And yeah, the scrapbook bit's kind of crap. And I also agree the fake out regeneration. To me, that was their attempt to repeat the success of Journey's End, remember? Because that was how they scored number one, was by having David Tennant be shot, and then there was a cliffhanger. Because when the second part of the Monks one went out, they showed Peter Capaldi regenerating in the next week on.
Yeah,
so
that's right.
that was clearly an attempt to, but it didn't work. In fact, I think at that point that was the lowest rated episode they'd had because people were just bored with Doctor Who. But anyway, I mean, it was beaten, I think, by the one after that, and then the one after that was the lowest rated one. It was like, I remember every week for 3 weeks.
Yeah, it was.
Liveland was a 4.82 with an 82 AI.
Is that not fiddled viewing figures?
That's full view. That's full ratings. 4.82 million.
That doesn't really count when they fiddle it. Like, there was a million.
Empress was 5.02.
Yeah.
Eaters of Light then dropped again to 4.73.
Eaters of Light
but the AI was above 80 for all those episodes.
Eaters of Light was, if you don't count fiddled viewing figures through their, iPlayer stuff, Eaters of Light was down in the 2 million, seriously.
Well, it depends. Look, let's have a quick word about this. Because this is something which has been thoroughly misrepresented in the past few years. You see, the Capaldi era got less overnight views than the Whittaker era. Because,
no, it didn't. Jodie got the most overnight.
Okay, if we take the whole, let me explain this more. If we take series 10, I'm not talking about the whole era. We take series 10 compared to series 11, right? Yeah. Series 10 in overnight ratings underperformed series 11. Series 11 was much more consistently scheduled and was on a Sunday night.
Yeah.
that Series 10 was faffed around and was very unevenly promoted.
Yeah, they did mess it about a lot.
It really did mess Series 10
Yeah.
about. And
all
also
over.
things like, hey, there's a fake out regeneration, let's ruin it. I don't even think it was on the last time trailer. I think it was on the reel for this season.
I think it probably was, yeah.
You
It was
know,
on
so
the-
they spoiled that 6 weeks before. It was only a question.
I'm pretty sure I didn't need to get into a discussion about ratings here. I was just saying I'm pretty sure they did put that in the next time, and that's part of why I think like that's why you can criticize the writing, because they were just trying to shoehorn in a rating stunt for for viewers, because I mean really it's a stupid scene. The Doctor like emotionally pushes Bill to the point where she's willing to shoot someone. And, you could think, like, oh, great, Doctor, what if she, like, is traumatized by that, knowing that she's just shot some guy? Like, that's a pretty big thing to do. There are surely other ways you can figure out she's not a traitor. I mean, it's ridiculous.
Back on the ratings for a moment. Sorry, I had to stop to clear my throat there.
That's all right, mate.
So on the overnights, there's no disputing it. Series 11 did better. However, the huge weakness to the Chibnall era supporters' argument was always their claim that people watch television differently now.
Oh, God.
Because, especially for Series 11 and then Series 12, when the overnight ratings started to drop, they said, oh, but people watch it on iPlayer. Now, if you go back and you separate out the overnight ratings from the overall consolidators, you will discover that the Capaldi era was significantly stronger on iPlayer than the Chibnall era. But less people watched on iPlayer. And then the BBC had to do various tricks. Like, it used to be you would have to watch 1/3 of the Capaldi era episode to count as a view. The Jodie episodes, you only had to watch 2 minutes.
Yeah.
So you could have the thing on accidentally in the background and it would still count as if you've watched it.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah. So yeah, this was furiously denied, but the fact is, people were bothered to tune in online over the week to see Capaldi's performance. They were not so bothered for Whittaker. But what went further boosted Whittaker's ratings online was the BBC then put the entire of New Who online, which they hadn't done before. They used to try to sell it to us.
Yep.
You'd get the season would go up and it would stay up for 3 months and the whole season would come down.
Yeah.
Now you can watch the whole lot for free because in their desperation to keep the viewing figures up, they've destroyed the value of the episodes. They've been giving it away for nothing. And what a surprise for J-Bots don't value anything.
Well, there's a surprise, yeah. Imagine that.
Yeah, absolutely. But
well, I mean,
this is all really key to explain that, these episodes were being followed more favorably and more keenly by an online audience than what followed afterwards. And that is simply a fact that is driven by how much of a draw Capaldi was.
I never disputed that. I was more thinking it was actually just the gap plus the kind of poor quality of the previous season in particular had maybe pushed people away, which was a shame because this series was better
and not supplying any Doctor Who apart from a fairly naff episode about a superhero for a whole year. Yeah, really didn't help. Yeah, I completely agree.
Yeah, but I mean, just about. So I just wanted to get back to this episode because I was just going to say, I was going to say, whilst it is a bit lame, I think people are maybe a bit hard on it because I don't think the mamby-pamby resolution kind of on the level of the Damons, which is, again, a decent enough story, but the ending of it's pretty kind of lame. Like, when it's just Joe, cares about the Doctor that the Demon can't process that and blows up. It's kind of on that level. I wouldn't say that it's as bad as, say, Last of the Time Lords, where the Doctor actually turns into a Jesus figure that flies along on love, if you know what I mean.
Oh,
So I
we do
don't
know what you mean. We do know what you mean. Yeah.
or the Jesus Doctor. I just laugh whenever I see it. Just the way he floats. And,
Yeah,
it's not
the
quite
juice.
like that. Yes, it's not quite like that. Or Rose getting her own blow-up doll of David Tennant called Handy to go away with in Journey's End. It's not one of the absolute worst mushy. It's just a kind of standard sci-fi type of, power of love, what is emotion, blah 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 crap. So yeah, it's not great, but I don't think it completely ruins the three-parter as a whole. Overall, I do like it, but I think it's just got a bit of a weak resolution personally.
I remember 11-year-old me being really quite disappointed that Return of the Jedi was resolved for the power of love. I wasn't buying it. I didn't believe in it. What is this rubbish, George Lucas? I wasn't impressed at the time.
No,
I think I appreciate that story a lot more now. Unless if you watch too much of it. But that's Star Wars for you. Don't watch too much. Stop
Star
at 3
Trek.
is quite good.
I like the original Star Trek, but it was one of the worst ones for
The power of
love. Oh God, it was terrible. What is this human
right,
thing?
in case of
called
Jim
love?
Kirk, the power of sexual chemistry. You know,
Yeah, no, I mean it is.
there might have been lesbians on the Starship Enterprise, but Captain Kirk was out to cure them. That's
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's like Richie from Bottom. That it's not your fault you're lesbians. That's what that's like.
Let's face it, Bill wouldn't get away with it if Captain Kirk was running retarded.
Oh no, absolutely not. Kirk
It'd be a tense, clenched, forced kiss by the end of the first episode. Yeah.
God.
Let's be honest. Let's be honest. Kirk was out to impregnate the entire universe. That was
And he
his mission.
succeeded. Yes,
Pretty much.
He only had
but
one
all
son,
that-
ironically. He only
Yeah,
had
all
one.
of that aside,
And even
he was
that one,
killed.
he wasn't 100% certain he'd had that one until the last minute. So,
Klingon bastards.
Klingon bastards.
Yeah, they robbed him of his son.
Yeah, the one I only found out about 10 minutes ago. Who about that one?
I have to admit, I am a sucker though for the transcendent moment in a story.
Yeah.
Some examples. When Gandalf tells the story of coming back to Middle Earth as Gandalf the White and how he defeats the Balrog.
Yeah, that is.
You know, that's where a character has a transcendent experience and comes back.
Yeah.
Larger than they were before. That's a very powerful example.
That is a very good example.
So things like the David Tennant, everyone's focusing through the Archangel network turns him into a psychic avatar to defeat the Master. That works on me. I know, but it does work on me. I know it's bullshit because I know that it's not anything like as well earned in the story as, for example, I just gave of Gandalf's transformation, and it's not that kind of impact either. The Doctor didn't become a new super Doctor forever. He's only the super Doctor for just as long as he needs to be, which is a bit of a trope in itself. But you know, I can't help but emotionally react to it. It makes my feelings soar. I enjoy it. Sometimes my emotions engaging with a story are quite happy to shove my rational mind in the backseat to shut up for a minute. And although I don't think it has quite the level of impact, the Bill moment with her mum, it does it for me. I react to those emotions. And in fact, Strange New World has just done it to me again because I've just watched part 2 of that.
I haven't watched
give spoilers,
No,
obviously, but there is just that sort of moment in it. You know, does it make sense rationally? Often it doesn't.
No.
But I think it's one of those things where when it can be pulled off, it is a way of dragging your audience with you sometimes it works well, and other times it's less satisfactory. I mean, this is one of those less satisfactory times in the Lie of the Land. Yes, it is. But I still love the idea, and that conjuration of the purity of motherhood. I do respond to it. It's beautiful.
No, I mean, I agree. It's not the worst. It's not the worst one.
It's beautiful. It's just whether it fits into making a good Doctor Who story. That's the different question.
Sadako said
that's
something.
How I relate to it.
I agree with what Sadako said in the bottom. It'd probably be better if we got to know Bill's mum, because she does kind of just come out of nowhere. It's like this woman, you know, it's a bit like that. So I agree that probably would have made it a bit better. But I mean, I don't mind it myself.
Yeah.
So just one other thing about Power of Love. Do you remember the Star Trek, not Star Trek, the Red Dwarf episode where Crichton goes on to them when they say they're going to help him? It's like, you would risk your lives for me. Is this, the human value you call friendship? And then Lister says, don't give us the Star Trek shit. It's too early in the morning. That's why I always
very good.
That went through my head when I watched this the first time. It was the Star Trek crap of humans are special. Humans,
by the way,
is one of the
public
worst for that.
Service announcement. Anyone who anyone's got access to iPlayer, whether because they're in the UK or they've got a VPN, Red Dwarf, all of it, all 10 seasons. Is all on iPlayer now. You can watch Red Dwarf start to finish, and if you haven't encountered Red Dwarf before, I would have to say, don't miss this opportunity.
Oh, I'm jealous of you getting to watch it for the first time. It's absolutely amazing.
So definitely remember that Red Dwarf is on iPlayer to check it out. Now, there's a voice that's been a bit quiet for a while. I know who it is. Golden Age Geek, tell me about this episode.
Well, I mean, my thoughts are pretty much similar to what everyone else has said here. I do like the idea of, the sort of it's not the remapping of history, because they haven't actually changed anything. It's just the control over the population to believe that things are a certain way, which if the BBC look at that story, they would, be quite self-reflective and have to, change their ways, but that would never happen.
No.
With the fake out regeneration, of course, it is annoying that they just did it for views. They wanted that sort of thing, but the Doctor is actually quite stupid to have gone along with that plan, because if Bill had shot him a second time mid regeneration, because he's regenerating, but that doesn't mean that he's all of a sudden good. Like, she only finds out afterwards. If she'd shot him a second time, he would have just been gone. Like,
it's idiotic.
Yeah,
it's idiotic.
It's the worst choice ever.
All right, just forget about regeneration. Forget about It's the Doctor. All of that, right? We should come up with a plan where, to find out if you could trust somebody, you got them to shoot you.
So stupid.
No, it's bollocks.
But don't forget,
it's bollocks at the start.
Yeah, but don't forget that's
how they actually as well.
Yeah, but that's how they actually tested the first ever bulletproof vest. Seriously, I'm not joking. The first bullet, when it was invented, the guy said to his mate, "Put this on; it'll stop a bullet." He put it on and he shot him, hoping it would work. Fortunately for the bloke, it did work. But I mean, come on.
He should have shot him in the head. He's solid bone. It wouldn't have made a difference.
That's the gambler's version of proof of concept, that is.
But that's exactly how the first body armor was tested. They actually got his best mate to put it on, and he shot him with a 357 Magnum round. He didn't even go 9mm. He went as hard as he could get it. Oh, Jesus Christ.
I dislike fake outs in storytelling anyway.
No, it's crap. It's like
I especially dislike pointless fake outs that obviously go nowhere and achieve nothing, because it's just a waste of screen time.
Yeah, it is.
Should have shot something. They could have shot something better and made this a better story, but put that in.
Mm-hmm. 100%.
So, just a really grotesque piece of baiting, really.
I think
You know,
what would have
and-
made the I think what would have made the story a lot better would have been to go down the route of the Doctor actually being under the influence of the monks. And then if you wanted to bring in a character from the past, you know, you could do it to bring in some extra views, but it would also make sense because the Doctor would have had that moment of remembrance and recollection. So you could have used an old character in maybe a form of a flashback, or maybe they appear to him in human form. So I think that would have been good. And also, we very rarely see the Doctor actually either clueless or not having enough power to be able to stop these villains. I mean, it's only really been a few times where that's been done. One of the cases being 42, where the Doctor was actually taken over by the entity in that. So I think they should have just done what they, you know, proposed to the audience initially, was the Doctor is under this sort of control, and then they could have had the Doctor using his power of memory and commitment to his previous companions to bring around the destruction of the monk entity. Because when we consider Bill, yes, we had the bit in the pilot about her mum and how she didn't know her, that sort of thing. But apart from that episode, it hasn't really been addressed. So it kind of feels like it just comes out of nowhere, and we don't really have any emotional investment in Bill and her mum to think that actually pays off.
I think there was a bit in Knock Knock, wasn't there? What about
Yeah,
Bill's mum?
I just feel like it's more of a side, you know, it's a
certainly.
side thing. It's not a very prominent thing. Whereas if you think about someone like Rose Tyler, that is a big part of her, that, you know, she lost her dad, and we constantly see her reflecting and thinking about that. So yeah.
Well, I think we got a pretty good grasp of this. In terms of this part, I'm going to score it a C+. I think the fake out regeneration part and the not completely landing it with the convincing aspect for what Bill has to do, I think they knocked it right down. But
yeah,
I'm also thinking that those flaws aside, the three-parter I would rewatch, and I find rewatchable. I've rewatched it more than once.
yeah.
So I know I did find this three-parter enjoyable, and I would have liked to have seen more of it.
Yeah.
So I think that's reasonable. I would have gone higher if it wasn't for it feeling rushed and just wasting time with the fake out regeneration, which was just pointless because it achieved nothing and convinced of nothing and was just a waste.
Yeah. I agree. Go on. I agree
No,
with
I
that.
can sort his next. Yeah.
Yeah,
What
I
would you
agree
give
with
it, Gobby?
I agree with what you said, but I'll give it a C-, but probably even a D+, because the fake out really took it out. To be fair, it really did, because it's like, really, because
I just don't want to give it a D- because it feels like it's a bit unfair to the rest of it, because there's other things that really work.
Yeah, exactly.
Tying up the story as a whole.
So it's a. I'll tell you what. I'll stick with a C-.
That sounds reasonable.
Yeah, I'll give it a C- because when you sort of add it into the trilogy itself, that kind of makes it fairer. Yeah, I'll give it a C-. Yeah, that was a bit of a conversation there with myself. Golden Age Geek, what do you give it?
I would probably just give it a straight C.
Fair enough. Yeah, that's good. And how about you, Burnshaw?
I agree with Golden Age Geek, a straight C. The fake out, his faults are quite big, but they don't drag it down to, you know, Kill the Moon level or anything, which sometimes it's been compared to. So no, absolutely, it's not deserving of that. It's still enjoyable, and
this is
John
way
said,
above Kill the Moon.
Yeah. Also, as you said, John, I like the Monk trilogy overall. So yeah. I'll give it a straight C.
This episode is kind of Doctor Who's Iron Man 3, because in that film you have the entire premise of a big threat. It's very dark, very gritty. They're going to explore all these dark things about death, innocents being killed, and then, like in that film, you have, you know, the guy going, "Oh no, I'm an actor," and it's all fake, and it's just bollocks. And then in this, you kind of have a George Orwell dystopian world set up, and then it's like, "Oh no, we're all fine. We're just getting ready to attack this place, and it'll all be fine." So
Yeah.
that's just a big letdown.
Yeah, I agree. It is, so, but overall, not done too bad. It got I would say, an average of a C all the way through that. So it did all right. A good average trilogy.
Well, actually, I think it's probably the best. I think it's probably the best trilogy New Who's done. Because the Master trilogy, the first two parts of that are probably better than anything with the Monk, but Last of the Time Lords lets it down. And similarly, the previous Peter Capaldi trilogy, the first two parts were really good, but Hellbent was just. So this one, I think, once again, the third part's the weakest overall. It's it's a decent story.
Yeah, so all good.
I mean, if New Who's problem sticking the landing is exactly because it doesn't take the science fiction seriously enough.
Yeah.
So it's very difficult to give an ending weight and not make it seem just like hand waved off.
Yeah, agreed. Yeah,
absolutely. Well, from the whole situation of the monks, we get something quite different now, because we get to discover that in fact Queen Victoria was also Empress of Mars.
Nah. Put that one in well, but also
I saw that one coming. No offense.
Honestly, I was stuck
on that one.
I was stuck on
hard to work that one. Difficult to work that one in. Yeah, absolutely.
But Mark Gatiss's final script for Stephen Moffat as showrunner. Although his not last appearance, because he will of course appear in Twice Upon a Time. But this time it's Ice Warriors again, which is good. We wanted Ice Warriors again.
Yes, we did.
And he's taking us to their home planet, Mars. Because in the modern day, the Doctor and Bill and Nardole are contacted and brought to NASA Space Control because Mars probe has discovered the words "God save the Queen."
Yes.
Written into the Martian, underneath the Martian ice cap. And this seems a little bit remarkable. Feels it might need some investigation. So that's exactly what the Doctor does. And he does so by taking the TARDIS back to 1881.
1881.
Where he discovers there is indeed an expedition of Victorian British soldiers on the planet Mars. Now, while this is going on, there's a bit of a problem because Nardole is going to nip back to the TARDIS because he wants to go to university, and then there's an issue with it and he can't drive it back, so he has to try and get Missy to help him take the TARDIS back because the Doctor and Bill are now stuck there.
Yes.
But as the story unfolds, we discover that these British Empire soldiers have just travelled back to Mars because they encountered an ice warrior who they call Friday.
Of course.
And Captain Catchlove rescued Friday from his crashed spaceship. And therefore, Friday cut a deal with them. But if they helped him fix it and come back to Mars with him and free his Empress, that would all be good and there'd be lots of booty.
Yes, always good for the booty.
Of course, that isn't entirely true because Friday doesn't really have any way of knowing how the other Ice Warriors will really take to these humans he's brought with him to Mars. And they then successfully managed to awaken the Ice Empress, Iraxa. Friday tells Iraxa that things aren't so great, really, and that Mars is kind of fucked. And, that's not so good. And she's in a bad mood, so she starts shooting some of these Victorians. And, of course, she starts waking up her Ice Warriors, because you can't just tell an Ice Empress after thousands of years of hibernation that everything's trashed and none of it's any good anymore. She doesn't take that sort of thing well. And so it's then up to the Doctor to try to resolve this. And he engineers an impasse situation by threatening to kill all of them with a mining device.
Yes.
Which then leads to a little bit of a rapprochement. And therefore, another soldier called Godsacre fights with Catchlove and kills him. And because of that, the offence has been cured. And then Godsacre pledges himself to Araxa. So they become servants of the Ice Empress. And the episode finishes with the Doctor helping the Ice Warriors send out a distress message, which is answered by Alpha Centauri.
Mm.
So no doubt leading to future adventures on the planet Peladon.
Indeed.
And that's basically it.
Yeah.
And when Nardole turns up with the TARDIS with Missy helping, and Missy's concerned, is the Doctor okay? That's basically where we get to with this episode. Comments, please.
Let's go Golden Age Geek this time.
I'm gonna just be honest. I just don't remember this episode. I only watched it a little bit of time ago, and it's just gone from my mind. I don't know what it is, but I think it's just a weird sort of monster mash of things. How you have all these classical soldiers on Mars, and all this is going on, and there's just something about it, and I didn't really get the ending with. I know they're trying to set up the whole Missy is, secretly good, that sort of thing. It didn't really work. I just don't really think it works, because by the end of after the last episode where Missy has the moment with the Doctor and she's saying, all those people I killed, I didn't even know their names, and that sort of comes along as she's start having her redemption arc, but then it sort of turns into her being sort of creepy again, playing on Bill like she did with Clara at the start of season 9. So that bit kind of comes as a bit inconsistent to me. But the main story of this episode, I think it just feels very redundant to me. And I just honestly do not remember a bloody thing.
Which is a sign of that redundancy. It's a sign of that redundancy when there's nothing in there, which is
it just doesn't stick. There's nothing there to keep you hooked or anything.
I would rather have even if there are far worse episodes than this. This is not like a very bad story by any means, but at least if I hate something, it sticks with me. But something like this, I think it's just incredibly bland, and I just do not remember a thing. So maybe that speaks for the episode, but it'd be interesting to see what other people think about it.
Yeah, I agree, because it's one of those ones that just it's in and out. It goes in one and out the other side. It's just it never sticks. The only thing that ever stuck with me was the Captain Catchlove and Godsacre. Great surnames, great, but that was about it. Oh, and of course they actually did manage to get the uniforms correct, so that was one. But other than that, it was in and out, and I'm not really happy with the Missy stuff either. But because
one of the things that did stick for me with this story was the sonic weapon effect.
Yeah, well, yeah,
which I thought was truly horrifying. Sort of compressing people into balls of matter. It's like really, do you want to die like that? It wasn't nice.
Oh, it's not nice.
No, so I like that. That was quite effective. I think the problem is that this story has no ambition outside of its own four walls.
Yeah,
and it's a nice conceit. Ice Warriors. They have an empire. They have an empress. Let's juxtapose them to British Empire. But there ain't no connection, really.
No.
I mean, there's nothing we know about the Ice Warriors that said they were any way similar to the British Empire.
No.
Have you ever heard of an Ice Warrior colony?
Nope.
Really. It doesn't seem like their way of doing things to subjugate others and rule over them. They seem more like the "we live here, you don't" types.
Yeah.
So it wasn't a great analogy, and I think, as others have pointed out, it ran out of steam pretty quickly.
Yeah.
And then Atraxa is just a hard head.
Yeah.
You just have to find some way to get round it. I think. You know, and it all felt quite a bit of nothing, really. It didn't feel like what maybe it could have been, which would be like setting up the reawakening of this civilization.
Mm-hmm.
And I think perhaps it wasn't helped by the fact it was set 100 years or more than 100 years in the past.
Yeah.
Because if it had been contemporary soldiers doing this, I think then maybe the Martians could be, Ice Warriors could have been woken up as a credible threat.
Yeah, absolutely.
As it is, they make out to seem like a bunch of pathetic refugees that need rescuing.
Yeah.
And, you know, we're just left with the understanding that Mars is a dead planet and the Ice Warriors haven't really got much chance of taking it back over. They're going to have to go live somewhere else, sort of thing.
Basically. Yeah, kind of thing, yeah.
So it didn't manage to be large enough to make an impression, and I think that's why it becomes so forgettable. Because at the end of the day, a belligerent, stupid leader is not something worth remembering.
Exactly. What do you think, Byron Joe?
Sorry, just
Yeah,
just one more thing. But I did like the one part that worked well was the relationship in the first part of the story with the Friday part, and they think he's one way, but really he's another. That was nice. The idea of him deceiving, he's not really deceiving them. He's kind of telling them the truth, but not in the true way. You know, I thought that was quite nuanced. That made him an interesting character, but as soon as his queen turned up, he's just following orders, you know.
Yeah, it just follows his orders, yeah. Go on then, Byron Joe.
Well, in contrast, I really like this episode. It's a candidate for one my favourite of the series, I'd say, along with the first part of the season finale. Well, it's just the season finale in general, and the creepy one with David Suchet. I'd say that this one is a candidate for that, ironically. Personally, I think everything about it works. I mean, I don't know why people are so down on it, and just obviously I'm not having a go at you for being down on it, but personally, I like the way the Ice Warriors looked. I thought the costumes were really great, and also I'm so glad that they finally gave them a bit of variety in the voices, because you know Nicholas Briggs has to fucking hog every classic era monster practically. I do the same voice for every single monster. But thankfully here, even through the lady one, we got a bit of variety. Also, personally, I liked the fact that it was Victorian soldiers. To me, this story felt like quite a cool little homage or pastiche of Edgar Rice Burroughs. I'm a huge fan of Edgar Rice Burroughs. I think his stuff's just so imaginative and so wonderful. So, you know, I think there was an element of that, transporting the actual Victorian soldiers to Mars, but it did have its own identity. And as you say, John, I felt the effect of them compressing the people into the balls. That was absolutely fabulous.
It was,
to me, that's
I'm really like, oh, that's a bit tasty. I actually thought, is that going to upset the kids? Is there going to be complaints? But I don't think there were.
No, see, I think it was really cleverly done, because the concept of it's gruesome, but it's not like, you know, it's not like they explode into blood or anything, so like they wouldn't get away with it. You know, it was like a very
mirror of death any day. Are we ready, everybody?
That's where it's good though, because I think it's the most distinctive way monsters have killed people in Doctor Who since Daleks. Because the Daleks, like their effect was really cool in the old series, where the whole room would light up. But after that, they didn't really know what to do for others. Like the Cybermen had the same effect. The Ice Warriors had the same effect. So I quite like the way they did something new here with, you know, them going. But another thing I liked about it also was the ending, which I'm surprised a lot of people haven't really mentioned yet, which is that you see Alpha Centauri show up again. Does anyone remember that?
I did mention that. I did mention that.
Did you?
It was definitely a good fan scream moment. I went, "Wee, it's Alpha Centauri!
Alpha Centauri!"
Well, yeah, I thought that's what it was supposed to do to us.
But see, I thought that was a good one, because it didn't take. It actually made sense, and it did help to fill in some gaps. the other criticisms that other people have had, where you said that you felt the Ice Warriors were a bit weak because they were only going up against Victorian soldiers, and also it made them feel like refugees who can't survive on Mars, and that it's annoying that they have to leave Mars. Well, personally, I don't think that's much of a problem because the soldiers stood no chance against them, and also the Ice Warriors have always kind of been portrayed that way. Like in the first story, they're a tiny little group that are just trying to survive. In Seeds of Death, they've just taken over a moon base and they have to try and take over Earth. And even in that Matt Smith one, there's only one of them. So that's often, I feel like that was reasonably consistent. And also, I did like seeing them on Mars.
We've definitely never seen the Ice Warriors on the front foot. You know,
No.
Yeah,
I mean,
they're not like the Daleks. They're always a near extinct kind of desperate race. So I don't think this really undermined them at all.
Monsters of Peladon is probably where you see the Ice Warriors at their most effectively military.
And that's the weakest story, I think. I think Monsters of Peladon, sorry for me, I think that's it's enjoyable, but it's a terribly made story in terms of how especially how the Ice Warriors are presented in it. And in that one, they get beaten up by miners with just pitchforks. So I'd say that's probably
We do, yeah. That's, you know.
And the Doctor, all the way the Doctor just burns like about 15 of them. He doesn't, none of this wishy-washy stuff. He just goes like that.
Well,
burns
I mean, I think if we look at why have the Ice Warriors not made a stronger return in New Who, firstly, that their potential was never fully realised in Classic is true. But secondly, I think they've been handicapped by their setting being Mars.
Oh, definitely, yeah.
Because
definitely.
I think Mars, you know, in science fiction terms, is just way too close. It's way too on the nose. And if you're going to set up a major species is coming from the nearest planet to us, the one that we might actually reach in a few years' time, it's difficult. It's difficult because you can't make that species strong without them becoming an overpowering existential threat to Earth.
Yeah.
If only Brian Hayes had, said they come from the planet Iceron, it would have all been so different for them. Because there would have been nothing to stop them being used in the same way as in the Sontarans,
I agree, but that's why I don't think this story. That's why I agree, but that's why I don't think this story is particularly bad. I think this story not only, although one mistake I will say was maybe they shouldn't have actually had Alpha Centauri, because that now that she or it is the one that's rescued them, that they'll become good guys after that. Except for a few.
It does imply that, doesn't it?
Yeah. Whereas
if
they just escaped, then you could have had it. They've set up shop somewhere else, and then they can be a big threat in another part of the galaxy. Whereas now they've maybe jumped a bit too quick to the good guy Ice Warrior part, So I will say that was maybe a mistake, even if it was a great cameo. So another thing to mention about this story is that this continues a trend I don't like. Now, it's a minor part of this, and they actually get away with it in this, but it's a minor. There's a trend in New Who where, for some inexplicable reason, they feel a need to feminize all the villains of Classic Who. Well, obviously, we've got Missy, who I hated in this story because I hate Missy. We've got Chris Chibnall. We've got Chris Chibnall and his cyber boobs in Torchwood. Remember that?
Yeah.
And he also had a female Dalek.
Cyber stilettos. With cyber arms.
Cyber bikini as well. I mean, it was awful.
Cyber bikini, yes.
And there's also a Zygon turning to a woman and kissing the Doctor. And finally, on top of that, I found out just the other day, Big Finish have done a story, right? It's revealed that if a Sontaran lives to a particular age, it will turn into a woman. I swear I'm not making that up. That's actually what Big Finish did. They had it. Sontarans are now transgender. They change to women after they reach a certain age. And they have that. And that's Strax is only 12, so that's why he's a man. I think it's like they have to get to the 20s or something. And So yeah,
Oh,
the
God.
Sontarans are now a transgender race, like the Time Lords.
What do you
Well, of
mean?
course they are. Of
What,
course
what's
they are.
well, Strax was in old age.
No, well, not
Not old enough,
evidently not.
apparently.
Yeah, well, but he was. Sontarans don't live to 12. It's incredibly shameful.
Well,
You know, I mean,
maybe
living that long, I mean, good grief, what kind of soldier does that? There's
so. Yeah,
Sontaran reaching the age of 20. You know, if they're
so
going to put this crap in, they've got to make it slightly credible.
by the way, and what's funny is that see all these gender flips, they're all extremely affecting women. Like the Master becomes a woman and now doesn't care about taking over the universe, only wants to be with her boyfriend. The Cyber Babe, remember her whole thing was she wanted to convert her boyfriend so they could be together forever. And now, like, I'm guessing, as you say, if a Sontaran becomes a woman, that's a wimpy, cowardly Sontaran who, you know, like hasn't been in battle, hence why they've been able to live that long. It's like, oh well, if you don't die in the glory of battle, then you're a woman. Like these things are actually offensive.
Oh, that's what a Sontaran medal that is. If you live long enough, you can become a woman. Well done.
So,
God, the world.
The Ice Queen is an example of that. But I will say the Ice Queen is probably the best. It's the only time this trope has been sort of done well. And I don't mind. I mean, there's nothing wrong with the concept of an Ice Queen. They are a race that we can, you know, have two genders. If there's going to be a king rank, there'll be a queen rank. And the Ice Queen herself was quite good. I mean, there was a bit of a cringy bit where she talks about, you know, women are smarter to Bill. But other than that, I thought the Ice Queen was okay. So I didn't mind it in this story, but it's clearly an example of that trend in Yoo-Hoo.
Oh. I'm still giggling over that.
I know, transgender Sontaran.
Oh,
and the Sontarans are like the worst aliens to do that to because they don't really because we've seen it when Strax interacts with Clara, they don't really see differences between men and women. So the idea that they're putting an emphasis on, oh no, they can change their
It's
entire
very
gender.
easy. Sontarans have one gender.
Yeah.
No,
One.
they're not even.
They don't
They're not
even
even
have
meant to be
two.
men.
They've got one.
They're not even meant to be men. The whole point is they did away with that.
They're potatoes with arms and legs.
Yes, they're baked potatoes. That's all they are.
That's what makes them a good idea, that they've done away with that, because like for war you just want to be able to like soldiers as you can, so I can go through all that, you know, aggro. You just create a clone.
This is why Big Finish is not canon.
Exactly. No. I didn't consider
and it's also
canon.
why there is an urgent need for a group of people to get their act together and create competition to Big Finish.
Yes.
Because if they're going around making up all these non-canon stories, why shouldn't somebody else?
Well, why not?
Exactly.
Why not?
You know, and you know, I think I was asked a few days ago what I thought the future was for Doctor Who, in the context of what if it doesn't work on Disney Plus and the series doesn't work and it's cancelled.
Yep.
And my answer was, I foresee a very exciting future for Doctor Who. Because AI technology is democratizing being able to create quality material.
Yeah.
And, you know, we are already seeing an explosion in the quality of fan films.
We certainly are.
And I think we will, if the show went back on hiatus, if Russell T Davies wrecks his career in disgrace by failing, if Doctor Who is cancelled, and if there's no longer any sign that any production company is going to currently make the show, I think it will be a liberation of ideas for the show. And I think we're going to see an explosion of material. I think the future of Doctor Who will come from the people who love it.
Yeah.
But I think the most vital thing is that if Doctor Who does go on to cancellation again, when it comes back, if it comes back, it must have no fingerprints at all to the Fitzroy gang.
Agreed.
Oh, good God, yes.
At this point, fandom must insist on that. We must insist on a new future for the fandom of the show.
Russell Teal's still be making it when
If
I'm an
these
old
guys,
man. Those
if these
bastards
guys
will
drop
never
the
give up.
ball, if Russell and his mates fail to save Doctor Who because they couldn't help but indulge their own obsessions, they're going to deserve the reputation they'll have as a result. And I think it will produce real change and a better future, believe it or not. Because, it's a bit like, do you keep voting for a mediocre government because the alternative is just as rubbish? Do you keep supporting an inferior show because the alternative is not to have it all? If that becomes a position, then perhaps, a lot of people do feel that, hey, I'd rather see Doctor Who come to an end than limp on to a weekend. Because the worst thing is, if the show comes to an end in such a way that it's just not respected, it will be a lot harder to bring it back, because the question would be why.
Yeah, agreed.
I think it's
agreed.
already at that stage. It's not respected.
It is. I mean, as far as the
Yeah,
BBC internally is concerned, we already know it is. We know the BBC will not make the show solo again.
No, it won't.
With the squeeze on the license fee, it just can't afford to anymore.
No, it really can't.
The BBC, I mean, in terms of what the BBC itself actually makes, it's surprisingly little these days.
Yeah, it doesn't make a lot at all. Just keeps bringing back old stuff, or repeats, or it's interesting times.
Or farming out to outside companies. The BBC is not making it, but obviously they are production deals, so they are BBC funded. But it can't afford to keep doing this. It doesn't have the resources anymore. It's got to scale itself back a lot. And in a sense, Russell is right, but it's just it's the market. The market will have its way.
It will,
as the writers are finding out. And by the by, if the writers' strike is not resolved by this time next week, the actors have voted to go out on strike. So next month, July, is when I expect we'll see some really brutal cuts getting made. And just today, Warner Brothers.
Oh, there, I saw that.
Straight off the back of the horrendous losses of The Flash.
It's shit film, that's why.
Are selling half of their back catalogue for $500 million in order to stay afloat.
I don't think James Gunn's DC universe is going to happen, by the way. I mean, I might be proven wrong, but I can't see how they're going to, because DC is so annoying. DC are my other big love apart from Doctor Who, but a bad state now. I mean, it's like, I don't see how they're going to have the wherewithal to get that together.
I had the displeasure of watching The Flash, although I didn't go to the cinema. I watched it via Sailing on the Seven Seas, and it's an awful film. Although, I will say, Michael Keaton as Batman. Oh my God, brilliant.
I agree with that. I don't like
it. This is Warner Brothers all over. They could. Yeah. They want to say, oh, if it's successful, do Batman Beyond, which is Batman in a science fiction kind of future, which is a cartoon basis of that, and keep the older Batman. Well, great idea. Maybe you should have made that instead.
Yeah, because the Flash is just
instead of the Flash.
They are such jellies. They don't take the bold moves, and thus they don't reap the good rewards, because it all ends up
Having said that, also I agree with the Time Prophet just below. He was saying that the 90s Flash was a great cleanser, and I agree with him. I loved the 90s Flash. Mark Hamill as the trickster is he is so brilliant. I mean, I know he's more famous for the Joker, and he is the best Joker, but he was an absolutely fabulous trickster too. I mean, that was just.
It was.
Anyway, so let's get back to the Flash movie. one thing, I do think that James Gunn actually ruined that. I don't want to give too much away in case anyone in the stream plans to see it, but he changed the ending, and I think the ending is the worst thing about it. To me, the ending, I mean, I agree with Gobby, Michael Keaton's great, but this movie kind of fucks him up in much the same way The Timeless Children does.
It does, absolutely. I massively agree with that, mate.
But the original ending
Hollywood is unable to allow any male character to retain their dignity. It's just simply unable.
See, that's the thing. So the original endings. I mean, shall I just say this? If you don't want it spoiled, look away now. I won't reveal anything. Okay, I won't reveal anything. But all I'll say is that the original ending wasn't as it actually did treat him with respect, but James Gunn, in order to push his stupid new universe completely,
I'm going to push a button here. It goes right. We need to stop this. We need to come back to what we're supposed to be talking about, and I need to find out what the hell Golden Age Geek made of this episode.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, we're not on to Eaters of Light yet, are we?
No, I'm just checking you're done.
It was first.
In this case, should we do your score?
Yeah.
So I would probably give this a. I may have to say D.
A D.
What about you, Bonjour?
Well, I'll give it an A. Again, it probably wouldn't be an A in another era, but in the Peter Capaldi era, I like, giving them better scores. And to me, it's a perfect episode for what it sets out to do. Great old school Edgar Rice Burroughs.
Okay. If I just ask this, if you remove your Peter Capaldi era booster from your score, what would it then be?
Probably a B plus, because it's not a classic, but it's a really, really, really well done episode in my opinion, with a lot of love and imagination put into it.
I personally just can't relate to it that strongly. I find it uneven. Yeah, I think it's got a good first 20 minutes. I mean, I am bored. I just find it too predictable. It just doesn't engage my mind. It just doesn't kick it for me. I'm going to go C.
And I will go D minus because it literally entered my brain and then just trickled straight back out. There was just nothing to hold me into it at all, and we won't go into the representation of the.
If you put it on, would you watch the whole thing through, or would you start to think, "Oh, I'll watch something else" before you got to the end?
I'll explain how I would do this. It's the time of the episode that I would put on so it entertains the dog while I'm out.
Wow.
Although then the dog might not be too happy with me after I come back.
Right, there we are, everybody. Good enough for the dog.
I liked Pearl Mackey's new look in it, actually. I mean, don't get me wrong, she's always gorgeous. And then normally I prefer a big afro, but I don't know. I think she really suited the ponytail. I think she looked. You think that look suited her a wee bit more in this one. That's just the last thing I have to say about the episode.
Fair enough. But there you go. So there you go. Good. Yes. I would say so we go D overall. Not brilliant. Just unmemorable would be the best.
A bit of a slog.
Yeah, it's a bit of a
slog. It was a bit like me this afternoon. I had to get the walking stick out, Robbie.
Oh no!
I don't move very quickly now.
No.
But I had to go all the way down to town and back because I had to get some bulbs because I knocked my lamp off without them. Well, they're the eaters of light, aren't they, when your bulbs are gone?
Oh, dear
well
Lord.
Played. Well played.
Got that on in nicely. I like that. That was very well done. Even I got suckered in with that one.
Who likes Romans?
Oh, I love the Romans. Brilliant.
Love I Claudius.
And who likes the final Sylvester McCoy story, Survival?
It's a good story.
Love it.
Absolutely. Because here, Rona Munro returns to Doctor Who after 28 years.
Yeah.
At this time, she's bringing Romans.
The Ninth Legion, indeed.
Now, the Ninth Legion is, of course, a well-known myth.
Yes, indeed it is.
Of a Roman army that in the 2nd century went to Scotland and basically disappeared.
Vanished.
I mean, never were quite sure what happened to them, but it probably wasn't something nice.
No. Well, back then it probably wasn't.
But this time it's Bill, not the Doctor, and Nardole
Yes.
who are looking into this. Because the Doctor and Bill are having an argument, disagreeing about the fate of the Ninth Legion.
Yeah.
So they go off and explore and land in 2nd century Scotland to see if they can find out what the heck's going on.
Absolutely.
Before too long, as is usually the way, they get separated. And then Bill discovers a bunch of Roman legionaries who are hiding from a creature that is drawn to any light source, but who kills anything it comes across. And they call this creature the Eater of Light. Meanwhile, the Doctor and Nardole run across the locals, and they run into a Pictish tribe which is guarding this stone cairn.
Yes.
Now, it turns out this monster the Romans are hiding from has come out of his cairn because inside it there is an interdimensional portal.
As always.
And the Pict explains that there is a tradition whereby one of their numbers enters the portal and then time goes really slowly for them, allowing them to sacrifice their lives to fend off the Eater of Light to keep the tribe safe.
Yep.
And but the last time that this happened, it went wrong, and one of the Eaters of Light escaped from the portal.
Right.
So,
didn't she actually let one go, didn't she, to fight
I'm
them?
not. I think maybe she did. Yeah, she deliberately let one out.
Yeah, she let one out to go fight the Romans.
So, well, there's only one way to resolve this. They've got to lure that creature back to the portal to get rid of it.
Yeah.
But the only way that can happen is with the sacrifice of both the Pictish warrior and the Ninth Legion, who enter the portal to fight back the creatures for all time.
Yeah.
And with that somewhat tragic ending, they return to the TARDIS, where, to all of their surprise, Missy is waiting for them. And the Doctor tells Missy that he has hope. She will turn good. So, was this good? Golden Age Geek. Let's start with Golden Age Geek this time.
Well, again, we kind of have a bit of a naff episode, in my opinion. I mean, all of the Bill stuff is just the preaching, all the messaging. So that just I completely disregard, because as we were saying, in the previous stream, there are many times in this season where Moffat and the writers want you to know, this is Bill, this is who she is, realize that. And then you have different characters saying, oh, have you got a boyfriend? Have you got a husband? No, I like women. I only like women. There's guys hitting on her. No, I don't like you. You're a man. I only like women. And so all of that just...
Actually, I thought that was kind of cool, actually. Because she goes to a Roman dom, a lesbian, and they go, yeah, and so what? They're not exactly impressed. Yeah, we've got lesbians. Nothing special about you. Sit down. I like that.
Yeah, I think it was just because, we had it so many other times and that was clear what they were doing. So it just came across to me that way. If it was a thing in isolation, no problem with it. But it's everything else.
I felt that was quite historical. Because a Roman would not have had hang-ups like that. They were rather liberated in that way.
Yeah, they were. but they were also all white. So we'll pass over that one as well. So you got a bit of that.
No, I don't agree with that. Any slave could earn their freedom in the Roman Empire, become a citizen.
Yeah, I suppose, but yeah, I'm kind of with the Golden Age geek on this one. To be fair,
I mean, we can confirm that the ruling families of Rome would be what these days we would identify as quite Italian.
very Italian.
You know, but I wouldn't agree that there were only white Romans. It definitely wasn't the case. So historically, I found it quite interesting. It did portray. It didn't make a whole presumptions. It actually gave you a historical portrayal of how Romans would probably have acted in that conversation.
Well, yeah, because they were very liberated, weren't they?
They wouldn't have been fussed about lesbians, that's for sure.
I agree to some extent. That was quite a funny twist when I first saw it.
Give me a minute here, guys. Over to you.
Yeah, no worries. Do you want to carry on saying what you were going to say, Golden Age Geek, and then we'll get on to everybody else?
Yeah, I think the whole plot with the creature, is okay. But bloody hell, I've got a bloody brigade going on.
What the hell was going past you? You got a secret Formula One meeting outside.
I have.
Do you want to try that again without the truck sounds?
When it comes to me, there's always some loud noise that goes on.
Normally, it's you trying to kill us with your mic.
Yeah.
Still haven't forgotten.
The only thing that I really found poetic with the episode was the start and end with the sounds, and I forget, was it to do with the winds that they had? Yeah, I thought that was kind of poetic, so I enjoyed that. And it was kind of similar to the ending of the Fires of Pompeii, where you show the effects of history, and so that bit I did like, but the rest of it, again, kind of a bit redundant. You have the thing with Nardo and Missy, which I mean, I don't really see the Doctor. I mean, I know Missy's going on a bit of a redemption arc, but this is the Master, and it's kind of Master Missy's, same thing, and it's kind of makes the Doctor look like an idiot when the Doctor is fully aware of what Missy has done, and it was only last season that we had Missy trying to force the Doctor to kill his companion. So the idea that he's going to let her just be let loose, it's literally they all go off, do their own thing, and just leave her. And I think that they do mention that the TARDIS has been put on certain settings and controls so that she can't really do anything. But this is supposed to be someone who is kind of on the same level of intelligence as the Doctor, so there's no absolute when it comes to that. The Doctor should be way more careful, and this kind of does just insult the character.
Absolutely. That's interesting. How about you, Burrinshaw?
Oh, I mean, I was just going to say earlier, I was just going to interject on that. About the gay bit, that I agree that's actually quite a funny twist. I thought it was a funny twist when I first saw it. But I also what Golden Age Geek means, and I think that it's obviously if you have a gay character, you should be able to mention they're gay, from time to time.
Well, you have to, otherwise you wouldn't know.
Yeah. But the way they did it,
ideally, if you've got a gay character, you show them. You show them they're gay. You show through their actions.
I know.
That's always the ideal.
I know, but what I was saying was just that, I think that they would have got away with that scene if they hadn't had about 50 other scenes this series where he has to spell out she's gay. So it's hard to judge it on its own merits, if you know what I mean, because it's part of something so much bigger. I mean, kind of like the Ice Lady from the previous one. It's in isolation that would be fine to just have a Queen variant, but when it's linked to all the other shit like Missy and so on, it's hard. But just about the rest of the story. To be honest, I don't really rate this one much. It's kind of what you guys thought with the last one. That's how I feel. But this one, that it just went in one ear out the other. I can barely remember it, to be honest. The monster, from what I remember, it was fairly generic. Was it not just a CGI tiger thing, or am I getting it mixed up with something else?
No, it was it's kind of a bit like the thing out of Hellboy.
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah,
yeah.
Got
yeah,
a skeletal
yeah.
horsiness to the face.
Yeah.
You know, so it's a bit. I suppose you could call it a kind of tiger with a sort of skeletal horse face.
I mean, I will say I've not really returned to this one that often, so maybe in rewatch it would improve. But from what I remember, I was very disappointed because Survival is one of my absolute all-time favorite classic hero stories. I remember loving it when I was a child. It was so thrilling, and I think she was the writer. She was maybe trying to do a similar thing of again make it a wee bit mystical, make it a wee bit but it just didn't pay off here. The story was very thin. And also, as I want to expand on what Golden Age Geek was saying, I completely agree with him that the Missy crap, it not only makes the Doctor look stupid, but actually makes him look like a really awful hypocrite. The way that he's, killed so many other bad guys, but he's going out of his way to try and redeem this monster who's killed friends of his. I mean, the Master has killed, like she murdered Osgood. Okay, that's for me. But going back into like classic, the Master murdered Nissa's entire home planet, killed her dad, and wore his corpse to kill other people. And the Doctor's, it's okay, I don't mind. You say you want to be good
We all
now.
have these phases.
And
To me,
see, that's why I hate this revisionism in New Who of the Master and Doctor still want to be friends. It's such bullshit. It would be like wanting to still be friends with Hitler after the Holocaust because you used to play tennis together after school. That's how stupid the Master Doctor friendship in New Who is.
That's a hell of an analogy, that is.
It is. The Master will build trillions of people. Surely there's no redemption now.
Oh, but they're just a few trillion. Don't worry about it. It's okay. Because you can still be good in the end. No, no.
And the next one, the Doctor, like with the Missy thing, he actually uses an argument that bad guys have used. He says that when Bill brings this completely valid point up, he says, "Oh, go ask. So you're eating a bacon sandwich. Go ask a pig about your moral high ground," which is exactly what like the Rani says, what the Daleks say, what the pterodactyls say, that it's okay for us to kill humans because they hunt animals. It's like, Jesus Christ, the Doctor is now actually using that to defend Missy. Who, by the way, I just also add, the Master's killed billions of Time Lords as well, like in the Deadly Assassin. Yeah. So it doesn't even apply. It doesn't even apply. It's such a stupid thing, but it doesn't even apply.
I know. I can't get my head around it either. I really can't. I really can't. You can't. How could you forgive any of that? It's just.
Oh, I hate Missy so much. She's the worst character. Sorry.
Yeah. Oh no! Don't apologise. Never apologise. Oh dear me, but no. I've always had that. This is the one thing that knocks me about as we come into the end about Missy / Master. You could never forgive somebody that evil. No matter, okay, you're the last of the other time. Look, it doesn't matter. It's like, no, you can't. You really can't.
But that was also, sorry.
Go on, carry on.
No, just because you brought up, you're the last of their Time Lords. Well, I mean, like, that's not even the case now, remember, with Missy. No. And also, even then, like, I think it was so stupid in the end of time that he wouldn't kill the Master because he was the only other Time Lord, considering at that point, he was meant to have killed all the Time Lords for the greater good. So it's like, he'll kill them all, including men, women, children, and infants, but he won't kill this one who's an asshole, like, for the greater good. It's like, what? How does that add up? It's completely nonsensical.
Can't get your head around it. You really can't. It doesn't make any sense whatsoever. But that analogy is still stuck in my head. I'm gonna have to cut that and put that out. That's just brilliant.
It's true.
I know. I'm not disagreeing with you. I think it's brilliant, but
wow. It's another comparison. You know what the Doctor wanting to be friends with Missy is like in this series? Do you remember that other episode of Red Dwarf where they see their future selves who are all bastards?
Yes.
And they find out they're friends with the Hitlers, and Rimmer's like, provided you don't talk politics, Adolf Hitler's an absolute delight. That's That's what Peter Capaldi's doctor is. But when did
Yeah,
you talk about when
literally.
she murdered that asthmatic girl for no reason, or when he ate a cat in front of a wee girl, or when he murdered that helpless old lady that was the auntie of one of my companions? The Master's a charming man.
Yeah, I always wonder. I mean, sorry, Matt's put a good question up. Would you say Fred West because he was the last human?
Fuck no.
No, no. I'd rather be on my own.
Yeah. Human race is dead anyway, so what difference does it make?
Oh yeah, but oh my god, but yeah, it's always has been a sticking point with me is the fact that the total forgiveness. I mean, I know you can forgive people, but not someone like that. You just no, you just can't. You can't do it.
If you're going
Well,
to
we're
have,
supposed to believe it's all about the Doctor's desperate hope, isn't it?
but
That's
Yeah.
what we're
desperate
supposed to
hope for
believe.
what? Like the Doctor doesn't believe everyone can be redeemed. He's never been kind of like that, you know. I mean, in the classic era, he tried to kill the Master dozens of times. He tries to trap him in an area that's going to be hit by an atomic missile in the mind of evil, practically, you know. So
Mm. Yeah, it's just something that I always have a problem with trying to understand how you could forgive someone like that.
I think if you're going to have the hero and the villain like still be friends or lovers, you have to make the villain a bit more sympathetic, or the hero more ruthless. Like in Blake 7, they get away with it with Avon and Servalan because Avon's not a nice guy.
Yeah,
Whereas the Batman and Catwoman, they get away with it because Catwoman isn't evil like the Joker. If it was the Joker, Batman was, you know, in love with that. Like, what? This guy, you know, eats babies. Like,
exactly.
so, and that's the point. That's why the Master clearly was never built for that in the classic era. If you're going by that story, he's clearly meant to be a nemesis because he's so evil. So that's why. So I know I've gone on a bit, but
No,
I do
it's
feel
fine.
strongly about that. I feel like that completely destroyed the Master's character. Completely.
Agreed. I
So
completely agree.
let's talk about how Munro wrote the Master in Survival.
Well, she wrote it brilliantly there.
Yeah, that was awesome in Survival, but here it's completely the opposite way around.
To be fair, I think Stephen Moffat probably wrote, because Missy's only in 2 wee bits. So I think in the same way he wrote River Song's scene at the end of Closing Time, I think he probably wrote Missy's scenes at the start and at the end of this story.
Yeah, possibly.
It has that I inserted this feel to it.
It really does. It really does.
Yeah.
It really does.
I'll
And
stick
it
something
sticks
at
out.
the beginning and the end.
Yeah.
Just give us the bulk of the clip of the script writer. I'll sort the rest of it out. It's totally
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. It's noticeable. It's very noticeable. So,
I mean, to be fair, Andrew Cartmel might have made some additions to how she wrote him in Survival, but overall, she would have had to have included him. Would have had to have written for him because he's so integral to that story. So, and she did a great job. You know, I mean, it shows you why it's stupid when these people go on about how women write for women better and men write for men better, because Rona Munro, a woman, wrote so much better for the Master than any guy has done in the 30 years since. I mean, seriously, from Eric Roberts, who was okay, to all the New Who ones that have been a joke. Like, that's the last proper, really good Master story as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah.
I mean, what is it that left this falling short? Is it that the need to sacrifice themselves to stop monsters is not convincing?
It's a kind of answer to where the mythical Ninth Legion disappeared to, I suppose. But I don't know. It's just.
I think tackling a mystery like this, they should have made it a bit creepier, because it's quite a creepy mystery where these people vanished. Whereas as it is, like them going off to be heroes or whatever, it feels a bit, you know, soppy. I think, and the threat isn't big enough. It doesn't feel, because it's a bland monster. It doesn't feel, you know.
Yeah, I agree.
Well, I think I might have played it differently. I might have played it that the Legion marched into the portal and on the other side of it, and then it ends up that they inadvertently opened the portal, and then to make this right, they have to sacrifice themselves, close it at the end. That might have been better.
That would have been better. Yes, yeah. Or or it would have been nice to see like a shot from the other side where the legions formed a barrier around the portal and are forever going to be fighting that. You know what I mean? Just give it a proper ending. They're dying a heroic death, sort of thing. But
it
just
needed an actual battle scene and not just a bunch of people crammed into
exactly.
shot, didn't it?
Yeah, you needed to see the fight because that would have sort of added to the.
And there was no way we were affording to see the fight at this point in the season.
Oh no! We couldn't afford a fight. We couldn't afford a fight. No, we were running low on the old spondoolies.
But that's what it needed. It needed something to really set off a sacrifice and make it feel properly epic.
Yeah, make it like a proper sacrifice, not just walking.
So, Papal said there at the bottom, I agree with him, that another thing as well is that the Roman centurions probably should have looked a bit tougher, a bit more grizzled. Yeah. They looked too much like just out of radar, you know, kind of like public schoolboys.
You know? Pretty boys.
Yeah.
I mean,
so if you wanted to, they're supposed to be fighting
they should have looked like some shit-hard bastards. Yeah, I mean,
if you go into the legend of the 9th Legion, they were sent there because they were the hardest legion around.
Yeah.
They were the toughest legion. They were going to break the will of the Picts. So to have a load of people who've just they've just learned to shave.
They reminded me, it's the most out of place casting since what's his name? Tom Hiddleston, is it, in the King Kong movie when he was playing a tough as nails mercenary with his little. He was like, "Let me have a go at this Kong chap. I can be quite a rough customer, you know."
Yeah,
I give him a bunch of fives.
Yes. Come here and take it like a man.
That's what they were like.
Yeah, but I mean, in reality, it's right. The 9th Legion, if you go on their reputation, were a bunch of hard asses. They wouldn't look like that. You know, they'd all have scars and, you know, battle wounds, and they'd all be very sort of, you know, grizzled and laconic and battle tired. But no, instead it's just a lot of people who just learned to shave. They weren't exactly the hardest people on the planet.
The ones in the Time Warrior, yes, I can't believe it's one of my favourite stories. I always forgot it's the first John Pertwee Sontaran one. I think they were a bit more realistically. More realistically medieval. They looked a bit. I mean, they were still actors, but they looked a bit more like kind of filthy and kind of grubby. You know, that's what you should aim for.
That's, you know, I mean, if you've got a clean soldier, you're not doing the job properly.
Exactly.
I disagree with Time Prophet. The 9th Legion would look like a big guy. They would all be just a bunch of fat brummies all sitting around going, I ain't having none of this shit. Fight for who again? Nah, forget that, mate. We're on a brew break. We're having a brew, leave us alone.
I love it, brew break.
Yeah, toxic masculinity, I know that one. But no, they should. But that, again, that's not really paying attention to history, is it? Really, you know, it's, well, I don't know, but no, they should have been hard. The Romans got as far as Glasgow and shit themselves. I understand that 100%.
I live in Glasgow, so I understand that more. My dad, actually, another one he always said that living in Glasgow when he was in the 70s reminded him of the Charlton Heston movie, The Omega Man.
Oh, the Omega Man, yeah.
It's like you couldn't go out after dark because there were psychos with hoodies that wanted to burn everybody.
Yeah, should leave it now. Lock yourself in the house
of the wheel.
But no, the 9th Legion is right. The 9th Legion should have looked a lot tougher than they did, but it's the BBC. So
well, I'm going to check in with Golden Age Geek here. Are we any more to add from your end?
No, I think the discussion you've all just had
well
is
discussed.
Yeah.
Have you dealt with those Hell's Angels outside? Have you gone out and given them a bat round the ear?
Yeah, it's been happening for the past few days. Just people there's about like 8 of them just come down on motorbikes, just come zooming down the road.
You should just lean out the window and go, "Oi, I'm doing a fucking stream. Shut up."
Maybe they're just out of Rada Hell's Angels, like those Roman centurions.
Yeah, when you get them close, they'll all be nicely shaved
Yeah.
and all
Tom-
sparkly clean.
Tom Hiddleston, I'm going to give you a bunch of fives.
Oh God, that's an image now. There's all these upper class Englishmen actually out on the bike. That'd be brilliant. I'm frightfully sorry for upsetting you, old chap. Yeah, sorry about the noise. These darn bikes are the new silencers. Ever so sorry. Oh, absolutely brilliant. Oh. Right then, should we go for scores?
I think we better had, yeah.
Yes.
Well, let me see. What can I take for this? It's just not interesting enough for me to call it a C. It just doesn't call me to rewatch it. I'm thinking D plus.
Fair enough. And I agree. I mean, I've watched it once, and it's not one of those ones I'm going to rush back to watch. So I'll give it a D. Absolute D. So yeah. How about you, Golden Age Geek?
D here as well.
And Burrinjaw?
Definitely a straight D. Not offensively bad, but really forgettable and weaker. The weakest one of probably this season, I'd say.
Yeah. Absolutely.
I think it wasn't helped, but it went out on a very sunny day.
Yes.
At a time which like an hour later than the week before.
Yeah, it was an hour later. Yeah.
You know, so it had a lot going against it, and it just didn't light anything on fire really.
No.
And so forgettable.
Totally forgettable. Whatever we were talking about.
Well, we're not going to forget the end of this season, which is now coming up.
It is indeed.
We have the final 3 episodes of Peter Capaldi in the role of the Doctor, and we will be looking at those next week.
We will.
So we want everyone to not only join us, but let's spread some news about next week's. Let's pack the house out. Let's get a good ending.
Yeah, good ending.
And let's give Peter Capaldi the send off he deserves as we approach our final stream for the season by season run through of why we love Doctor Who.
Wow, it's been a thing, hasn't it, mate? It's been an absolute thing.
I've loved every minute of doing it.
It is. It's just grown and grown. It's just been awesome.
It's
Absolutely
a great journey, and we will all assemble here next week.
Yes, indeed. So with that, I'm going to say and bid you all farewell.
Yeah.
Considering we were going to do this only 4 episodes and it weren't going to be a short one, we still managed to go over 2 hours. So,
well, we did divert into the Flash and all sorts of things.
Oh, well, we're going all over the place, weren't we?
Matt Pounder has Time Spider been on. Was on right at the start, Matt, and fantastic news. Been able to ring the cancer bell.
Yes, he's rang the cancer bell, and it's all good. It's so fingers crossed everything stays good for him. So.
Well, thank you very much, fellas.
It's been a pleasure as always, and I shall look forward to catching you next week at the same time as we finish it all off. And with that, I'd like to say goodbye, everyone, and good night, and I hope you all have a wonderful weekend. See you later.